So the essence of the workforce planning process that we advocate is very simple. It's effectively taking an audit of your current state. So doing a current state assessment, both of who you have and who they are, but also what you foresee in the future. And that's the second step, future state visioning. What do you think the organization is going to look like in 12, 18, 24 months' time? Given the gap between where you believe your workforce is going to be and where your workforce is going to go, what is that gap and what are the scenarios that you can put in play to actually fill that gap? And that last step then is actually action, putting the plans into place. So let's go deeper into each of these steps. Doing a current state assessment in workforce planning is absolutely critical. Yet many just jump in and do planning without really understanding what they have in the first place. Doing a current state assessment is beyond just headcount planning. It's more about thinking about the skills people have, how they're going to be growing over time, what intentions they have. In other words, do they actually want to move up? Do they want to change jobs over a certain period of time? If so, maybe that should inform how we facilitate movement within the organization. So we have to understand who we have in place right now, where they're going, how they're developing. If we do that, if we define it up front, then we can plan better downstream. So let's get really clear on how we're defining the workforce that we have currently. And this is going to be a salient point throughout this course. Now, with a clear understanding of who we have in the workforce right now, both in terms of numbers and skills and intentions and whatever dimensions you deem appropriate, we can now do a really effective and valuable future state visioning exercise. In other words, what is the workforce of the future going to look like? What is that ecosystem that we talked about earlier going to look like? What skills are we going to need? How are we going to acquire those skills? So let's go deeper into that now. So now that we understand who we have in our business, we have to go back and project our internal talent demand. So what are we going to be needing to get work done given our business strategy? And let's assume it's a growth business. We're going to see that, hey, we need to acquire people with certain skills. So are those skills inside the organization? Are they outside the organization? To do that, we're going to assess the internal supply of talent, and we're also going to assess the external supply of talent. So what makes more sense then? To develop people internally, move people internally, or maybe acquire talent externally? We also have to be attentive to where that talent is. That talent might not be in our market. It might be elsewhere. So again, understanding our talent demand given our business strategy, auditing our internal supply and forecasting that, and also forecasting and assessing the external supply of talent. Now that we have a good understanding of who is in our workforce, and we have a good understanding of the talent demand given the work that needs to be done, and we've audited our internal and external supplies of talent, now we can do a gap analysis and do some scenario planning as well. We do this for 4 specific purposes, and certainly there are other purposes, but there are 4 main reasons we're doing workforce planning and things that we should explore thus in the gap analysis point in this process. Number 1, what's our internal development and mobility strategy? Number 2, what's our external recruiting strategy? Number 3, how are we going to work with external partners? And 4, how are we going to design the organization differently, maybe spans and layer difference, teaming, and so forth. So keep that in mind as we proceed and go to the last stage. The final step in the process is execute and adjust. After all, workforce planning is a fluid, ongoing process. The decisions that we make month to month, quarter to quarter are going to affect the plan downstream. As such, we have to be very conscious about how we measure, monitor, and communicate decisions in the workforce planning process. And that requires governance. And we're going to talk about that now.